Good morning, guys. Welcome to my second part of my Buzzwordathon vlog. It is a little bit before noon, and earlier this morning I finished the book I was reading in my last vlog, which is 3 Blind Dates by Megan Quinn, and I absolutely love this book. It was so good. It actually centers a lot around the movie You've Got Mail, so if you love that rom-com, I think you would adore this book. This is definitely a romantic comedy. It had me laughing quite a few times. It was really lighthearted for the most part, but the ending was so sweet and I loved it so much. I ended up actually tearing up. And like I was saying in my last vlog, our main character, Noelle, she is choosing between 3 different men that she's going on blind dates with. And the next 2 books in the series center around the 2 guys that she didn't choose. So I'm really excited to finish up this series. I think it'll be right up my alley. I always like lighthearted romances. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but it was such a great time. I actually recommended Melissa over at Melissa H, and she is an open book. I recommended that she read it and she ended up picking it up for my recommendation. So fingers crossed she loves it just as much as I did. And then I ended up picking up my next book, which is Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. And this one I really didn't have much of an idea of what the premise was. All I knew is that people are not liking it and that it was a second chance romance. A lot of people said that the transition from past to present was kind of abrupt and that the first portion of the book was set in the past. I don't have an issue with that because I love second chance romances, and so far I've been loving this book. I'm already on page like 120, so I'm about a third of the way through the book, and it's about an 18-year-old girl named Tate who visits London with her grandmother, and her grandmother meet this old man named Luther and his grandson Sam, and Sam is 21 years old, and the 2 grandparents and grandchildren start hanging out together in London. They're staying in the same hotel, and Tate and Sam start watching the stars every night in the garden at the hotel, and they start this romance, but now they are torn apart and we're jumping to the present. So I just finished up the portion where they're in London, and now I'm about to start presently. The 2 main characters really bonded in the past over their kind of broken families and their removed parents. And Tate lives in California, and her dad is actually a celebrity. He's a famous actor, and he hasn't really been present in her life because her life has been so secretive. She hasn't really told anyone other than her best friend. So she opens up to this boy that she's kind of falling for. And Sam lives in Vermont. He's going to college and he works on a farm with his grandparents, and his parents have not been a part of his life at all. And so he feels like he could relate to Tate, and he's really a shoulder to lean on for her, and he listens to her. But we know that he breaks her heart, and it's several years later. I'm assuming that they are about like 30 years old now. I haven't started the current portion yet. I just got to it. But what I heard is it takes place in LA, and I know that Tate was aspiring to be an actress, so maybe she's an actress now. I'm not really sure. So I'm really excited to see where this romance goes. I don't know why people have been disliking it. I'm really enjoying it. I love books like this. People didn't know it was a second chance romance, but I feel like the name is pretty obvious, like Twice in a Blue Moon. So I feel like it's obvious that it's a second chance romance, but I guess not everyone would get that. So if you don't like second chance romances, you probably wouldn't like this, but if you do like myself, you might really enjoy it. So I'm gonna definitely finish this today. My husband got off work early and he has Monday off, so it's almost like a 4-day weekend. So I'm really excited. We're gonna spend the day together and I will get some more reading done. I'll definitely finish this today, and when I make more progress, I will come back and update you guys. Okay, it's several hours later. It is after 5 p.m. and my husband and I just went to the grocery store, and I finally had some time to sit down and update you guys. This afternoon, I ended up finishing Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren, and last time I checked in, I think it was only like 120 pages in, and it was around 350-360 pages. It read really quickly, and I finished it while Avery was taking a nap. Now that I finished the book, I definitely see what people didn't like about it. I didn't agree with the parts where people didn't like the second chance romance. They didn't like the past portions, but I think that was actually my favorite part of the book. I loved the part where the 2 main characters were in London, and that's how they met and had their meet cute, and that's where all like the cute parts of the romance are. But then when we come to the present day, our main heroine, she is an actress, and she is on set now for a brand new film, and it turns out that the screenwriter is the guy that she knew from London, and he had betrayed her while they were there, and now it's been 14 years and they are back together again. But there wasn't any kind of romance really in the current timeline. They end up obviously getting together, but there was no build up to it, and I don't feel like there was any emotional connection to their romance. So this one was a huge letdown for me. I ended up giving it 3 stars, which is one of the lowest ratings I've ever given to a Christina Lauren book. Usually I can rate them a little bit higher as long as there's some lighthearted comedy in there, but unfortunately this one didn't even have a lot of comedy in it, so I didn't really love it at all. So now I have to decide what else to read. I've already read 7 books for this readathon, so I don't have a lot of books left that have numbers in the title. I'm still not in the mood for a thriller, so I don't think I'm going to read one of those, but I do have an ebook copy of The Girls at 17 Swan Street. This one was recommended to me by Kendra over at Kendra Loves Books. I've seen it around before as well, and I heard it's a really hard-hitting contemporary about women with eating disorders, so I don't know how much I'm in the mood for a super heavy read, but I've heard it's really good, and Kendra keeps wanting me to read read it. So I think I'm finally going to take the plunge and just read it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I haven't read anything since I finished Twice in a Blue Moon. So I'm going to go dive into this book and I will check back in with you guys later. Okay, so it's day number 6 of Buzzwordathon, and the last time I checked in, I was about to start The Girls at 17 Swan Street. I ended up starting it last night and I finished it this morning. It was a fairly quick read. I think it was like 300 and something pages, but it read fairly quickly. It's a very hard-hitting contemporary about 17 Swan Street, which is a house that is for women with eating disorders. And we're following our main character named Anna, and she is a woman who is sent there by her husband Matthias, and she struggles with anorexia, and we're seeing into her mind while she's being treated there in the past and kind of what led up to her being there, and some of her treatments and some of her paperwork there. We get to see into that. This was a really heavy read. I can't say I enjoyed it per se, and the writing was a little bit different. There were no quotation marks on all of the dialogue. It was all in italics, and so it was a little bit hard to read, but I did find learning about the treatments really interesting, and I think it's an important read if you're interested in learning more about eating disorders and what it is like to be treated for one or what it's like to have one. At times I felt really sad for the husband Matthias because he didn't abandon his wife Anna, and he was there for her every step of the way, but you could see how much this disease affected not only her but him as well. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was a very hard book to rate because I didn't enjoy it, but I did find it interesting. I'm glad that I read it, but it didn't really move me that much, so that's why I didn't rate it higher. I'm about to do a lot of chores because I have some people coming over today, and I just want my house to look really nice when they come, so I have a bunch of laundry to fold. I have mine and Avery's. So I decided to download a kind of short audiobook, and that is Heidi's Guide to 4-Letter Words. I heard about this from Brie over at In Love and Words, and she said she liked this one okay. She thought it was cute, so I figured I would give it a try, and now would be the perfect time because it does have a number in the title, and it's fairly short, so I think that I'll be able to get through it pretty quickly. I think it's about a 4 or 6 hour audiobook, so on 2 times speed I'll be done with it in no time. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Once I get a little bit more reading done, I will come back and update you later. Okay, so it's many hours later. It is now 9 p.m. and my parents just left. They came over for dinner and we had just a really good time. I made roast and it was absolutely delicious. And today, getting ready for having guests, I did a lot of cleaning and I just had some general house chores to do. So I ended up listening to a whole audiobook. Granted, it was only 6 hours, so it didn't take me very long because I listened on 2 times speed. It was an Audible original called Heidi's Guide to 4-Letter Words, and this was such a cute story. It was about a girl named Heidi who she is an elementary school teacher and she's kind of a prude, and she gets laid off from her job, so she needs to get another job. She ends up taking up a job as an admin assistant at a studio that records audiobooks for romance novels, and at first she's really excited because she loves like Amish romance books, but it turns out they record erotic romance novels, and then she decides to make this podcast to try and get more comfortable with erotic novels and kind of sex in general, and she calls it like Heidi's Discount Erotic Novels or something like that, and she has a big crush on the really hot guy that lives next door, and she wants to become less of a prude and be more comfortable with her sexuality so she can finally ask him out. So on this podcast, like every day, she reads excerpts from these novels that are recorded at her studio, and this was such a good time. I really enjoyed it. If you like rom-coms, I think you would really like this one, so I'd highly recommend it. I'm really glad that I listened to it. It was really cute. So I think that's all I'm going to read for the evening. Like I said, it's 9 p.m. so I'm just going to relax for the rest of the evening and I will check back tomorrow. Okay, so it's day number 7 of Buzzwordathon. It's about noon. I just filmed a ton of videos, but last night after I stopped filming, I did read a little bit of my next book. The book I ended up picking up was One Little Secret by Whitney Barbetti. This one has been on my TBR for quite a bit after I heard about it over at Falling Over Books channel. And this is a new adult romance about Hollis and Adam, and they went to school together, and Hollis always had a crush on Adam, but he didn't really like her because she hung out with the like bullying crowd, and they had this like moment together at a party in high school, but then they kind of went their separate ways. Now it's been 3 years and Hollis is about to graduate from college, and she should be getting her trust fund, but her parents made this like stipulation with the trust fund basically saying that unless she gets engaged she will not get the money. And this whole college career she's told her family that she's had a boyfriend, but it was all a lie and she wasn't being truthful. And this is where Adam comes back in her life. He is really struggling. He had to leave his career in music to take care of his little sister because his grandmother, who is the guardian of his sister, is now in the hospital and she's dying. And so he comes back to take care of his sister and trying to get a job and pay for everything, and he's really struggling. And him and Hollis kind of meet back up together and they form this plan together. Basically, Hollis will help him in exchange for him being her fake boyfriend in the hopes of her getting her trust fund. I'm a little less than halfway in. I am liking it. I'm just not loving it right now. So once I get some more reading in, I will come back and update you later. Okay, so it's 5 p.m. and a little while ago, I finished One Little Lie by Whitney Barbetti. And this one for me was really hard to rate because some parts of the romance I really enjoyed, but other parts of it I felt really disconnected. It was kind of all over the place and the pacing was a little bit off, and it was a little bit on the long side. I think it could have been condensed. What attracted me to the book was the fake dating element, but I feel like that wasn't necessary to the story. I think it was just used as a plot device to get the two main characters together. And this is supposed to be the start of a companion series, and the second book has yet to be released, even though it says it should have been released this fall. It's a new adult series, so they're all kind of younger and kind of going through life. But I do want to continue with the series because I do like a lot of the side characters and I want to see them kind of grow. And like I said, I enjoyed this one. I just didn't love it. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So it's 5 o'clock and at 6 p.m. we're doing our Thriller Talks After Dark discussion for The Other Mrs. Miller. So I'm going to be kind of busy with that. So I think I'm going to end the vlog here. I've already read 10 books for the readathon, so I don't think I'll be reading any more books before midnight. But I quickly wanted to go over all of the 10 books that I read and their star ratings. The first book that I read is The One for You by Ronnie Lauren, and I gave this 4 stars. The second book that I read is Three Women by Lisa Taddeo, and I gave this 3 stars. The third book that I read is Marriage for One by Ella Mays. I gave this 4 stars. The fourth book that I read is 3 Days Missing by Kimberly Bell, and I gave this 3 stars. The fifth book that I read is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. I gave this 5 stars. The sixth book that I read is 3 Blind Dates by Megan Quinn, and I gave this 4.5 stars. The seventh book that I read is Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren, and I gave this 3 stars. The eighth book that I read is The Girls at 17 Swan Street. I gave this 3 stars. The ninth book that I read is Heidi's Guide to 4-Letter Words. I gave this one 4 stars. And the 10th book that I read is One Little Lie by Whitney Barbetti, and I gave this 3.5 stars. So overall, I think I did really good on this readathon. I had a lot of fun participating. Like always, I will link all the booktubers as well as all the books I've talked about down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next one.